Hi everyone, welcome to my setting, fellow fans of the written word. And this is a new episode of Let's Read Wheel of Time, The Great Hunt. I want this to feel more coherent, at least compared to the current stream of consciousness. And in regards to that, I'll try to divide my future videos into segments for just sake of the structure, so that the things feel a bit more natural, because I do have a tendency to ramble and jump around from plot points chronologically, and I wanted to divide these segments. First, I have a lot of questions, and my first question is, what exactly happened to Thom? So we had a confirmation prior to this that he survived. Moraine said to Rand that Thom is alive. Now, Rand wanted to believe that, he hoped that that was true, but he wasn't too sure about that, or he didn't want to allow himself to believe, to hope. From his story, we know that he escaped, he was injured, but he got off relatively easy, since he was not the target of Myrddraal's attention. However, did he say the whole thing? I know that I was kind of dubious about his motivations in the previous book. I'm not anymore. I think he is a good guy, but he's certainly not a saint. I don't think he is. And he also had that weird comment about being disappointed that Moraine isn't with them. Does he just have a thing for her, or what? And he does reveal details about his nephew's death and so on. But is there more to him? Is he just super skilled with knives enough to make a distraction and survive? Who knows? My other question is, so we have this new group, Sanchan? I think they're Sanchan. And I have a lot of questions regarding who they are. Previously, there was a conversation between Aes Sedai about there being a group of descendants from the army of, what was his name? Should have looked that up. And are they really the descendants of this army? Why do they consider everyone else traitors? What caused him generations ago to consider everyone else traitors? And why did they mention an empress? That's interesting. So they do have a central figure of some sort. Is Selene connected to them in any way? Is she maybe their empress? Then again, maybe she's not. She does not have an accent. I mean, it is difficult to convey an accent in a book when it's written down. But Robert Jordan did kind of put a lot of emphasis on the way they were speaking in relation to sailors. And they did not have these speech patterns and manner of speaking such as Celine did. So maybe not. But yeah, I'm curious about them in the future. What else? Aiel. We still know very little about them. What was the sin of Aiel? Apparently they failed Aes Sedai somehow. How did they fail them? Were they in their service somehow? Did they fail to uphold their vows of some kind? Were they allied with Aes Sedai? What was the relation? What was the relationship there? I desperately want to know more about them and their culture. They're a big, they're constantly referenced. They're apparently a big figure. They are a big player, I think. We still don't know their moves, but there are a lot of story elements that tie down with Aiel. Aielman ran himself, and just traces they left everywhere. Other question. A listener pointed out to me several videos ago when I was still talking about the first book. I was curious about the power of White Cloaks. How do they operate? How is it that they have this large military presence? They don't seem to be kind of sanctioned by the government. They are this almost a rogue paramilitary group. How are they allowed to exist in the open, essentially? And a question formed in my mind. Do White Cloaks actually ever find out legit, real dark friends? Or are they just useful idiots of the Dark One because they're making lives of ones that are actually fighting dark friends and darkspawn more difficult? Are they just puppets themselves? They do apparently have several competent commanders within their ranks, but as a group, I'm talking about as a group, they seem to be incredibly just inept. They're cruel, they're incredibly cruel, they're evil, their methods are disgusting, but they claim to have one singular purpose and one singular mission, which is to hunt and eradicate everyone who is not standing in the light. And I'm not seeing them doing that. I'm sure in their minds they're doing exactly that, but I kind of have an impression they're just running around on the whims of this commander or that commander. There is not much thought, I think. Or if they were any less cruel, I'd call them like butt of the joke, bumbling idiots of Wheel of Time. But no, they are murderous, disgusting people who are also really dumb. Other question. So we have this new element introduced in the book. Enslaved Aes Sedai. Well, I have a question. Are they connected to Black Aja? Are Aja just Black Aja? Sorry. Do they consist of former Aes Sedai whose kind of spirits, power, will, etc. were broken? Or is Black Aja a group of members that come from other Ajas, and they willingly participate, in secret of course. I'm kind of willing to believe that they are different. They're not one and the same. The enslaved Aes Sedai, they serve the Saint-Chan, but I'm just trying to see the connection, because we do know at large that there are forces that are older than one power, the true source, like the Wolf Brothers and so on. There are still elements of this ancient things, and some of these ancient powers are even utilized by Aes Sedai, even though they don't fully understand them. So yeah, that was actually super interesting. Lesser question, again relating to Aiel. So, as little as we know about them, we do find out that apparently there are ranks. There is such a rank as Red Shield. We encounter one that proclaims himself to be Red Shield such and such, which is on its own, again, kind of infuriating, because Robert Jordan is just dangling this Aiel carrot in front of me, and I want to know more desperately about them. And some of the kind of long-standing questions that I have for the entirety of the series. Will Perrin become a wanderer character such as Elias? Because he's kind of keeping to himself, and I'm just wondering, will he become entangled in some group in the future? Because Rand is entangling with himself with everyone, with every single group. He is a magnet for every group, faction, color, anything, you name it. He is part of it, willingly or unwillingly, most of the time unwillingly. I'm just wondering about his character. Will he become this Mad Max of the Wheel of Time, wandering around with his wolf bros, or will he become part of something greater? Because he is Tal'Viren himself. I get that he is this figure whose existence influences kind of reality around him. I get that. I'm just curious. I'm not curious about Matt. I still don't care about him all that much. Other question. What will Min become if not a Sedai? It was very interesting to see Min there in with other Aes Sedai, but she's clearly not meant to be one. So what is she? A hybrid of some sort? Is she some kind of anomaly, just like a sniffer or a wolf brother? Something reminded me the existence of kind of quote-unquote lesser magic users, such as Min with her sight, and sniffers and wolf brothers. It reminded me of Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. And in Mistborn you have the titular Mistborn, who are gifted with many abilities, and you have Mistings, which are less rare, but they have this one singular peculiar ability that they utilize. Usually Mistborn is jack of all trades, and the Misting is very good in one very specific thing. And here it's reversed. You have Aes Sedai who are, Well, I guess it is similar. It's not that different. It's just, yeah. And there is more connection, of course. I do know that Brandon Sanderson was kind of asked to complete the series last 3 books, I believe, when Robert Jordan passed away, sadly. So he is a huge fan. That's quite obvious. So yes. Now to less pleasant things. Water first. Borjomi, good stuff. What I liked Rand's struggle to navigate this game, this political game. It is an element that added a lot to world building, but it was added in an elegant way. I thought it was added without overbearing exposition. The rules are instantly known, and this is something that kind of an instant reference that formed in my head was there is a series by R. Scott Becker, what's the name? The Prince of Nothing series, yes, and it's a very dense work, fantasy work, heavily inspired by Dune, which I think Wheel of Time is also quite a bit inspired by Dune, especially Aes Sedai. They're just like totally Bene Gesserit. But I digress. And in it, there is this political sort of game conduct, way of behavior that nobles do called Yunan, I believe. And it also has a lot of these unwritten, a lot of kind of rules within rules, traps within traps, sort of verbal dance between the participants. And in Prince of Nothing series, I thought it was much more explicit and also happened. And I thought that Robert Jordan actually did this much better because he didn't have to dwell on this too much. It was, here is this thing that's called the game. Nobles play it. Whatever you don't play it, you're still playing. By actively rejecting it, you are still sending a message. It's like chess. If you are skipping the turn, you're still making a turn. You're just not making any moves yet. No matter what you believe, the others are always thinking ahead. And that was good. Also, I really enjoyed Egwene's development and her friendship with Elaine and Min. There was this a lot of... At first, I thought that she's gonna go in this rivalry mode and jealousy about Rand, but it quickly kind of clicked with them, and it was nice. She desperately needed some kind of development, and I am happy she got it. I also enjoyed Logain's appearance and the continuation of that thread. We know what happens to those that are gentled. It was in the previous chapters, it was always just almost whispered, but now we see how someone who has been gentled look like and behave, and it's not pretty. Perrin is always a delight to read about. Also enjoyed the appearance of Tom. I like the fact that there are characters such as Tom that are drawn to Rand. Rand did find him on accident. He was drawn to his voice, but Tom had a life before the main plot, and he continued to have his life after Rand left him. And I like that because not everything needs to revolve around Dragon Reborn, even though it does kind of, but still. I like the bit about Lan's stoic shell cracking a bit, and I like the interaction between him and Moiraine and him, probing him, but I still am not too sure, was it necessary? Was it just to show that he does feel things? But I thought we kind of already know that. He has just an incredibly strong sense of duty. But I'm still not too sure about Moiraine as a character here and her motivations. Something that I continuously enjoy is how every city and community has its distinct flavor. That's always a joy to read, and Robert Jordan does not disappoint in this aspect of his writing. I don't think I was ever disappointed by this so far. It has never been bland. It always has its own flavor. Now, things that I didn't like. This will probably sound a bit harsh, but I am starting to think that this book was not as tightly plotted as Eye of the World. Now, I don't know how was the whole saga planned. Was it planned as a trilogy? Was it planned as several trilogies within a series? Did this planning get out of hand? What I mean is, I'm not too sure about the overarching plot of, well, not overarching plot, meta plot. So you have a plot of retrieving MacGuffin, which is the horn, losing it, pursuing it, retrieving it, losing it again, more. And to add to this, I wouldn't even be so disappointed with it if there were not one but two MacGuffins, because we have a horn and we have a dagger. And if they have lost the horn twice, that would have been okay, because they would still get the same point across. By they, I mean Robert Jordan. We would at least still have a dagger, and we could have resolved the plot with Matt, because Matt needs this dagger and he's getting weaker and weaker. I understand that the loss of both of these things adds to the sense of urgency in the plot. It ups the ante on the pacing. But I thought that it was up already. I mean, the fact that they lost the horn again was kind of a reason enough. Or even if they didn't lose a plot, the fact that they have to reconnect with the other group, that Rand is on his own with a small group of other people, a group of other people he trusts, but he still has a huge disadvantage. He has this incredibly valuable, dangerous thing, two of them, in this perilous city, a city full of people who will double-cross him. And then to add top of this, we have again this rinse and repeat plot point. I'm not too happy about that. I'm still enjoying the book very much. I just think the kind of meta plot kind of is not a very elegant solution. I enjoyed the, as I said, confrontation between Lan and Moiraine, or rather, I enjoyed what wasn't being said, what was meant between the lines, because Moiraine was kind of sidetracking, catching Lan off guard. But I just hope, and this is not a negative or a complaint, this is a hope that things don't get too melodramatic. because there were kind of, I think, traces of melodrama from the chapter which was about Nynaeve's test from her point of view. And there were traces of melodrama between Gavin, was it, Elaine's brother, and Egwene. I do hope there are no love triangles, or at least no melodrama. I don't like love triangles. I'm not one of those people who wants fantasy or literature without romance. No. Romance is just an element of life. And if you want realistic people, realistic characters, they do form relationships, they do fall in love, and so on and so forth. It's only natural. I'm not very interested in romance books. There's nothing wrong with them, and I do like romantic subplots when they're done well. It's just I feel that in fantasy in general, most of the time, they're done poorly. I hope Robert Jordan doesn't go that way. I hope we don't give this any kind of harem situation. And one additional kind of hope for the future is not exactly a negative, but I do hope that Robert Jordan doesn't continue to increase the size of the cast exponentially, because it is growing, it's not out of hand. I'm following everyone and everything, I think, as best as I can. I just hope it doesn't balloon and go overboard, because we now have the captain of the ship, we have Aes Sedai, we have Egwene in her training, we have Nynaeve's point of view, we have Moraine on her quest, we have Rand. I'm just hoping it kind of doesn't lose its focus. Now, last segment is predictions. Prediction number 1. There will be a fight between Saint John and White Cloaks. Question is, will it be a proxy conflict between locals who were converted, because that's what the Saint John do, they convert locals and make them swear fealty, versus White Cloaks, or will this be a direct fight between these two groups, between White Cloaks and them? And if it will be a direct confrontation, direct fight, will this be on land? Because White Cloaks don't strike me as sailors. Prediction number 2. Rand will be the one to blow the horn. This is probably a low-hanging fruit level of prediction, because the way things are going, fate and everything, the way Rand is drawn to things like that, but I believe this will happen. I don't think it's a far reach. Prediction number 3. Rand will accept one of the invitations from the nobles, and it will possibly be the one from the king. And quite the opposite, from the Lord, the one very important Lord whose name I cannot recall right now, and not the king. Also, prediction number 4. There are hints that Ingtar is shady, which is regretful because I did like him as a character. But I do have my suspicions about him, and I predict that it will be revealed that if he's not a dark friend, he is for sure blackmailed or manipulated in some way. And last prediction is the big climax that will happen at the end of the book will be at the ball that Rand will be invited to. So, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.